Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Art of Doulagiving. This is our spotlight series on our Doulagiver graduates, and I am thrilled to share them with you. There are so many amazing people in this space that I am so honored and privileged to be a part of, and then to see what they are doing out in the world to make it a better place for everyone in it. Today, I have an amazing guest that I'm going to share with you. This is Teri Portugal-Gooden. She is a certified end-of-life doulagiver specialist, a former professional chef, restaurateur, and entrepreneur. Teri has served in the doula role from a very young age when she first sat vigil at her great-grandmother's bedside and bore witness to the grace that is a peaceful death. Everyone had left the room and Teri and her Gaga were alone. Teri applied Gaga's favorite lipstick and sat at her bedside speaking words of love. Gaga experienced the surge before death and kissed Teri all over her face and told her that she loved her and not to worry because it is beautiful. When the rest of the family returned, Gaga had died, and Teri sat at her side with a face full of kisses. For more than 3 decades, Teri served many at the end of life through her pastoral care department of her spiritual community. When Teri retired from her business in 2020, she knew she wanted to live a purpose-filled life and was led to Doulagivers. As founder of Infinite Passage, Teri is passionate about empowering her clients and their loved ones by providing holistic support, education, and guidance throughout their end-of-life experience. She is a strong proponent for home funerals and a passionate advocate for green burial and the evolution of death care. Teri walks beside her clients and their families each step of the journey with compassionate care, holding the sacred space for a graceful and dignified death. Teri, welcome.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so much.
Well, I want to thank you for answering the call. And this is the Art of Doulagiving because it is an art and it's a beautiful, loving, holistic model that we live, not only for end of life, but it teaches us about life. And I just got goosebumps when I read about your Gaga and that experience from a young age and the sacredness of death, because right now we've removed all of that from this experience and it's causing deaths to be 1,000 times more challenging. So I want to start with the spotlight that we ask a few questions and then we can let this go wherever it needs to go. So the first thing I want to ask, and you can expand and answer in any and all ways, when did you know that you had the calling to be a doulagiver?
A doulagiver specifically was when I found you.
Okay.
I always had, as you mentioned, and when reading my bio, that I had always worked and volunteered and found myself just randomly, in that space with the terminally ill, the dying, throughout my early childhood. And I wrote a paper about it when I was in the 4th grade and I got called into the principal's office. They thought that was totally weird. But I just, I've always felt it. I've always felt a space for my elders. All of my friends were elders growing up. I mean, I learned the best lessons of my entire life in the kitchen of my elder women and family. I mean, sitting in the room, that Hamilton line, the room where it happens, and just hearing their stories and their conversations. And, it's always moved me in a very profound way. So
I love that so very much. You're really, an honorary doula. It's just part of your being. You have that gift. You have that gift of being comfortable and having a knowing within this space that right now is death is the #1 fear in the world. Yes. So I often will say, for those of you who have this gift, for those of you who are innately comfortable for whatever reason, you can pinpoint it to something or it's just is, please step forward, whether for family, community, or for being a doula, because the world needs you very much now. So that's really beautiful. I want to talk about your Gaga. I want to talk about this experience because it is amazing. And one of the things that we are doing in the Doulagivers Institute, and a lot of, again, the free training that we do, is bringing back the natural sacredness of the end of life experience. And part of that is sharing with people to be honest with children, to, from a very young age appropriately, how they can understand, do not shield them, do not remove them from, it's one of the greatest gifts you can give children is know that this is a natural part of the cycle. And it sounds like you had that. So could you expand a little bit on that story? Because I just love it. How old were you? Did anyone talk to you about it? I mean, I know that you were gifted to be among elder populations, which is another awareness that I want people to hear. Our elders are such a resource of everything, of love, of connection, of how to live. And yet we've removed them from society. We act like they don't have value because they, you know, in fact, 100 years ago, or a little over 100 years ago, the older you were, the cooler you were, because you were the wisdom keepers. You held the story. So people used to lie up. That's really great. Now it's Google, but it's not, because nothing can replace that care and the wisdom. And also, that it's our responsibility to be compassionate, loving to any population. So let's talk about your Gaga.
Oh my gosh. She was just everything. She was just everything. She had come to this country from Ukraine. God bless Ukraine. Mm-hmm. And she was very young, and she came with my great-grandfather had come first. And then she came a little bit later. At least this is as I recall the story.
Yeah.
And she was just my favorite person in the whole wide world. And I was born to a young mom who was divorced, when I was like 2. Mm-hmm. And so I spent a great deal of time with her, and she told me so many stories, like how when they came to this country and there was like an underground, and all the women really took care of the entire community in every single way.
Wow.
From, making sure that families had food, medical care, birth care, death care. I mean, just in every way. And being an immigrant, to this country and facing all of the things that they faced as, coming here, not speaking the language, just everything. Right. There was a whole community of people like them that were not necessarily from the same part of the world. There was African-American people. There were other, people that had come to this country from fleeing the war. And, and everything that went along with it. And it was just a huge community of like-minded individuals trying to build a new life in their own vision, really. Yeah. And my great-grandmother brought with her wisdom from her grandmother.
Sure.
And she was, that's where I learned food is love. Because we would just be in the kitchen together, and she would always cook, and I'd cook with her. And that was, my joy.
Yes.
And so she was a remarkable person.
Yeah, she really does sound like it. And I think that the community taking care of community is, again, one of the things when we do our free level 1, when we make this offering available to everyone in the world every month, and even in person when we can, is really trying to get back to that community taking care of community, because that's where magic happens. We don't need a law to be passed we can care for one another. We just have to want to do that. We just have to, be willing to create those spaces, bring down the walls a bit. So may I ask you that time that she was in her transition, and what was that like? What did you think when she had a surge of energy, which, by the way, not everyone gets, but if you don't know about this, everyone, it's when somebody is very close to the end, sleeping a lot, and then all of a sudden wakes up and is clear as day. And yeah, it's a very magical time.
It's interesting because you've asked the question many times, what called you to this space? Mm-hmm. And all of those memories came flooding back to me.
Yeah.
Because in so many memories.
Yeah.
And I was sitting next to her, bedside, and everybody else had walked out because everybody was very, very gutted. My great-grandmother had 3 children. My grandfather, my mother's father, was extremely upset about it. but I always knew that she and I had a special, I couldn't imagine, but I always knew that we had a very special relationship. And she used to stand and wave at me from her porch. And I asked her, don't do that right now. Don't do that. So I just was not even surprised, to be honest.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what to expect. It just seemed like the most natural thing in the world.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize, even though she loved her lipstick, so I had put it on her. I don't even know how I got it, but she woke up and she just, took my face and she kissed me all over my face. And she told me that, don't worry, don't be afraid, all of those things.
Yeah.
And then she died. And then and I just feeling that right now is like very moving for me. And it wasn't even that. It was when my grandfather came into the room and basically crumpled. Mm-hmm. And I was holding him up, telling him what she told me, you know, and I realized that I felt a power and a strength within me that I couldn't even language at the time. And
I don't know that there is a language for it. I try. So what you're describing is very similar to many of the experiences that I've had with my beautiful patients at the end of life. And it's almost indescribable, the peace, the serenity, the connection to something so much greater than what we normally think of. And that it solidifies that there's an omnipresence of us all, and it's love at this point. It's dropping the physical human part of us and having that spiritual part that is just so full of light and shine, and it exists forever. When you feel that, when you know that, yes, that physical person's not there, but boy, there is like a peace and serenity that goes along with that. So I love that. And I love that she said to you, don't worry, it's beautiful. And again, this is what people share with me. So for those of us who work in this area, it's very important for us to allow people to know the truth about what death is like, because now there's a big illusion around it. There is a fear around it. People don't see it, so they don't know. We want to tell them that it can be beautiful, that it is sacred, that it is natural. And then, of course, give them practical skills of support, because we all know that we're going to get there. Beautiful. So you were really on this pathway. And when I look back at my journey, I've been on this pathway the whole entire time. In fact, when I was a hospice nurse, which I was called hospice, I went and became an oncology nurse after a few years, because I said to myself, I really want to know what people go through before they get to hospice so I can be a better practitioner, not ever thinking that I'd be on a platform of educating, but all of those steps, and of course they were organically led, I just follow my heart, led us to this incredible education that we can really support. Thank you for that you were on that path. And thank you for just, again, bringing in the youth into this fold, because I think it's very hard for anyone to talk about death. But when we say children can be a part of this age appropriately, people are like, wait, but then we explain why. So it's a beautiful thing. The second question that I want to ask in this interview is, how has being a doula giver and doing this work personally changed your life? And I think you said it at the beginning, Teri. I think you said something about it taught you everything about life. Like this space.
Yes. And when I first heard you say that, it was like, oh my gosh, because I really didn't know the direction that I would go in. My only intention was, after a 30-year business that left me ravaged on so many levels,
right?
I had to take a time out.
Yep.
And during that time out, I had the blessing and privilege to, be there for my brother-in-law when he had a massive stroke. And nobody knew what to do. His wife knew absolutely nothing about anything. He had always taken care of everything. And even though I've been after her for years to please, you know, get the documents, have the documents, you know, I mean, even to the point where she had to show her marriage certificate to be able to do things, which, you know, she just received, God knows how. But that was a problem. And there was no advanced care planning for in the event that, you know, so either one of them were to pass away.
Right.
So I had to just, and I found him as well. So it was like from the beginning, and then, you know, just the what I knew, and I don't really, you know, from all of the experience that I had, and with my own mother doing her advanced care directives when she had breast cancer, and also the pre-planning for her disposition. And with my brother-in-law, that was just in July of 2021. So I helped in, you know, to get the plot, mortuary, plan the funeral, produce it, all of those things. And it was all, and then when I left there, I realized that this is what I meant to do. And my first step was in palliative care. And that's what I started to study initially online through Stanford Medical School. And I mean, palliative care. I'm just believe that so strongly. And then, you know, one step led to another, and I, you know, end of life doula, that's me, you know? And so, and I have had the opportunity to speak on it now. And I have had a patient since I've been certified, you know, and it's just a beautiful space. And you never know what you're going to walk into. You just know that you just know what the guarantee is at the end of the day, you know.
Yeah, you know that. So what does it feel like to have found your purpose and to honor your calling? Because this is not exactly textbook. I don't think when they were offering like options when we're growing up, a nurse, whatever the options are, a teacher and all that good stuff, doctor's, lawyer. I never heard about a doulagiver, but I also know that even today, to honor and step into that knowing and calling is not always clear what that looks like or why or how that's going to present. But I know that when I honored that, my whole life opened up in a way, just that feeling of I found why I'm here. I'm doing something to be of service. I'm connecting in the most loving way that I could possibly think of. Is that something that you can relate to? Is that how you feel?
Absolutely. Absolutely. For me, I had to unravel completely. I'm going to get emotional just thinking about it. But honestly, you know, I had been in a very demanding business for 30 years, very high demand of every aspect of my energy. And when I decided to close, in that moment that I decided that to close, I had the opportunity. I felt like that chapter was complete. And all I wanted for my next chapter was to do something where I was living a purpose-filled life. I wanted to be of service. That's always been a part of my life, is to be of service. And this service found me probably 20 plus times in my life, including birthing babies too. I've been on that side of the doula movement also. And I thought perhaps I would be a birth doula. And I had a very powerful woman wanting, you know, she wanted to train me to work with her. And it's an energy. I really believe, and I've heard you say so many times, everything is energy. And for me, it's an energy. And I feel like I am completely home.
Yes.
And that's, yes. And the empathy that I have learned, my empathic nature is, you know, is able to be completely present. You don't have to dial it down. I don't have to make excuses for it. I can celebrate it. I can offer it. I can, you know, and that empathetic nature has shown me things, just most recently, about 2 weeks ago, when my person was in the active dying stage, and we were there doing ritual for her, and her 2 daughters were there, and her elder sister, and we were at her bedside, and I just was standing there at the foot of her bed, and my eyes were closed, and I felt the room completely fill up around us. It was like crowded, like you couldn't fit one more soul in there.
Wow.
And I just knew, I just knew that she was such an amazing human in life.
Yeah.
She was definitely being, escorted to her next journey with so much love and celebration. Yes. I was able to say that.
Yeah.
Ordinarily, you're like, you think twice, but that's how it's really changed my life. So I could be my 100% authentic self.
There you go. And how much does that allow you to just breathe when you're able to be yourself and not be trying to fit into this and that and listening to everyone else? When you're like, this is me, this is my heart, this is my purpose. It is like, yes. And I think that comes with age. And I think there's a beautiful thing about age because of that. But your empathy is your best medicine. Let that love and let that empathy be there, because it just engulfs and holds people. It's so beautiful. So I absolutely love that. Okay, we need to talk about you and your new business and what you're doing and how people can get in touch with you. So a few things I just want to highlight here is that you are a Doulagiver specialist. So you do care consulting work. You do advanced care planning, which everyone knows that we are going to have an end of life. And when you plan ahead, 80 to 90%, it can go better no matter what the disease process is. So this is something everyone, so important for you to do. It's the greatest gift you can give your families. So you also had mentioned that you did a talk. Can you just share about what you're doing right now with your business and how people can get in touch with you?
I am open and receptive for every opportunity that comes my way to serve. That's what I say every morning, and it has come in a myriad of ways, but in the midst of it all, I feel that I am a doula. And that is the space that I walk into every opportunity and every meeting with. And I have been, I'm a new doula. And I had and I've spoken to a group of people that have been meeting with each other for 15, 20 years, like a very, very long time. And from that, and when I got there, I thought I was going to talk about something, and then I was talking about something else. So I am doing advanced care planning. I am helping people with that. I do a lot of talking about it before people really are ready to, acknowledge that that you get past the part of, it's your death. It doesn't have anything to do with your death. It has to do with your life.
Yes.
And that's the mindset that, we are, as the doulas and end of life doulas, that we are educating people for, is that this is your life.
Yes.
And so I do advanced care planning. I do trusts. I do living wills. I help people navigate that space. I have a paralegal background as well. So that comes naturally to me. I am working on all of my assets, as we speak. I have my website now, which is amazing. Infinite Passage is the name of my Infinite Passage LLC. And it's infinite-passage.com.
Yep.
And I'm, just sharing what I'm doing. And I just had a patient that I was just talking about. I don't even know if I like that word patient. I don't know if I like the word client. I just call her my person.
I think for our purposes of education, amongst us and amongst public, because they don't know about this, I think it's okay to use that. I would never use that in the home.
No.
Yeah. So,
No.
but I understand that for sure. But I think for clarity, it's helpful now. And may I ask, are you able to do visits for teledoula, and are you able to take people for doing advanced directives by the Zoom and things of that nature, right?
Yes, yes, I
Okay.
do. And I'm, as you know, I'm slightly technologically challenged, so I'm also learning in that space, but I'm so much better than I was.
Listen, you're doing great. Look at you here on this Zoom doing your interview, which is beautiful. I just want to say that I honor you. Your heart is so bright. You shine so bright. And I love having you in the Doulagiver family and being a part of this, because that's the ripple effect of change that we're making in the world, that you all are. And you said it's not death, it's life. And right now we need to get back to life. We need to get back to life together. Judgment, with compassion, with empathy, with kindness, and with presence. And you all out in this world are that ripple effect that's changing this world. So I thank you. And I thank you again from all the people that are going to be helped by your services. So once again, people can get in touch with you via your website, which is infinite-passage.com. We'll have all the information for you here. You are available to do things over internet, or you can meet in person. And tell people where you're physically located, please.
I am located in Calabasas, California.
Beautiful. Well, good for you. That sounds great. Well, Teri, I want to thank you so much for being here on the Art of Doulagiving, the spotlight of the graduate series. You are absolutely amazing. Thank you for your heart and soul and all you do.
And thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. All right, everyone. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you in the next video.